All right, and thanks for tuning back into To Be Fair, a podcast hosted by me, Aaron. That is this face right here. If you're listening to this, you can't actually see the face. But we are here with a special episode because it is, well, when we're recording it, it isn't right now, but when this episode comes out, it will be Pride Month of the year 2021. We are going to be celebrating everything LGBTQAI and our queer histories, our queer beings, everything about us. And so I'm very excited for this month. And today I have a very special guest who is, I got over 20 years. Uh, and we've known each other since we were really kind of getting to know who we were as teenagers. And now we still know each other as adults. Is that really what we are, Ash? This is
I
Ash.
don't know.
Ash Kelly, everybody. This is Ash. I have known Ash. Ash was one of my first roommates ever, right out of high
Yeah,
school. Um,
yep, straight out of
ugh,
high school.
I just want to touch base on the fact that we had so much drama. We
Oh my
were
God.
we
It was like a reality show without the
we.
cameras.
I know we could have
Thank
made so
God,
much money. We could have made so much money.
but thank God we didn't have like video camera, like smartphones back
Oh
then.
my God, we would have been dead. We would have destroyed each other.
Oh my gosh.
The way
The
you and
amount,
I talked to each other sometimes was just so like
and
you
it
were.
wasn't even like
I,
half the time it wasn't even fighting. It was just like
it
the
was
way we
just
talked to each other.
yeah.
It,
But if you and I were actually like not getting along, it
oh, it was
was
bad.
it was intense. It was an
It
intense
was.
thing because you and I were very yin and yang. And I'm not like trying to do this in the fact that like you were a terrible person, Ash, back then, because you weren't. Like I
No,
wasn't. We were just
no.
way different people, and
But we were people and we were very passionate people.
we were
And
passionate. We
that
hated
tends to
we
clash.
hated drama, but we are children of chaos.
Yes,
When you
that
come
is
from
very
chaos,
true.
you draw chaos, and chaos, no matter what we do, somehow drama finds us.
Yep. I hate it, but I agree.
Hmm.
It's just the way it is.
And and sometimes I know that I'm at the center of it. Like I'm literally causing the drama to escalate and escalate. It's part of my journey of recovery that I'm trying to work on because my paranoia can get really, really.
And I've dealt with that too, like with my dealing with like CPTSD and everything. I've realized like they like Nick and I like never fight, like my fiance, but like I realized like the major fights we've had have been like miscommunication.
Hmm.
And it's usually on the part of me miscommunicating something I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And he thinks that I'm like attacking him, but I'm not actually attacking him. I'm
Yeah.
trying to convey how I feel. And then he gets on the defense, and I'm like feeling like he's not validating how I feel, but really he just feels like I'm attacking him. And we figure it out after the fact. And then I feel like an ass because I'm like, this was like my fault mostly. Like I worded things wrong. I get heated, I get emotional, and especially if it's something concerning like my past, what I've been through, things like that. And luckily, he is an amazingly understanding human being because I think you have to be to deal with someone like me. But
Yeah.
I understand that struggle when it has to do with mental health because even with what I deal with my anxiety and
Yeah.
everything like that can cause drama when I'm not even trying to cause it.
Yeah. I like that you brought it that way too. It's like there's only so many people that can handle people like us.
Yeah.
Um, and I've started to learn that as a queer person, as where I the steps of my life were literally I remember coming out bi. I think during our time in like our teenage years, that was the popular thing. If you were going to come out as anything, bi was that scapegoat.
Yep.
It was, I
It
mean,
drove,
for some people, it was actually the truth. It was their truth.
yeah, and that was in
Yeah,
my case.
yeah,
And
but
it drove me crazy because of the girls that would go to parties and they'd
Mhm,
get drunk and they'd make out with friends and suddenly they were bi.
mhm.
But when they got sober, the next
They're,
day, they're
they're
like,
like,
oh,
oh
I
my
don't have
God,
anything to do
no.
with that. That's not
No.
me. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And I'm like, you're not bi. But then when they got drunk again, they're like, oh my God, I love girls and I'm bi. And I'm like, no, you're just drunk and making out with your friend, which is fine. You do you. I'm
Yep.
not judging. But don't put that label on those of us who have to walk through the halls and be called names and have shit written on our locker and be shoved around and get in fights, because that's actually who we are as a person. That's actually how we it's something that I can't help.
Yeah.
I've known I was bi since I was 8 freaking years old. 8
Yeah.
years old. And so to deal with that, I don't judge people getting drunk and making out with their friends. I don't really care. I don't judge a lot of people for a lot of things. But don't try and claim to be something and belittle people that have really had to go through a struggle. Because you were right there with me in high school. And we both know how not accepting Grand Rapids High School was.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the thing is I was only at Grand Rapids High School for 1 year. Before that I was in Reamer. So
I can't even imagine that,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
like
Oh.
I know Seth, you know Seth, right? He went to Reamer too.
Well,
And
I know plenty of Seths from Reamer,
yeah,
but
Seth Wagner.
oh yeah. He was a
Yeah,
year
yeah.
younger than me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm good friends with him, and he's told me about like Reamer High School, and you've told me about it. So I know enough about it just from you guys to know that
Yeah.
like that would be like, I remember my parents were gonna send me to Hill City, and I'm like, hell no.
Oh, it's
I
like because
will.
you were from Jacobson. That's right.
Yep.
So you
And when
had
we
that
moved,
two options there.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, because when we moved from California, well, I didn't really have the two options because Hill City threatened to sue Grand Rapids if they drove their bus the extra 5 miles. So I had to get up at 5 in the morning, hitch
It's
a ride
weird
with
when
my uncle,
it's
and
weird
go
when
to a truck stop
it's weird when
and stay
school
there.
it's really weird when school districts are
Yeah,
gonna
because they were
sue each
like, you're
other.
robbing us of students. And I'm like, newsflash, not going there anyway. So have fun.
It's changed a lot, I think, since when we
It
were in
has. Oh
school.
no, it majorly has. Like I even know that from my daughter and everything. Like no, it's changed like a lot. But back then, man, it was a pain in the ass. And so I had to get up at 5 in the morning. My uncle worked in Hibbing. I would hitch a ride to, what is it?
Yeah, I know.
Swan
Yeah,
River.
the Swan River truck stop
Swan
there.
River, yeah, truck stop. And I'd sit there and wait for the bus because I was like, Grand Rapids was bad enough, but I was not going to Hill
Well,
City.
and that's why, like, when I left Reamer to go senior year because I was 18 and could make my own choice,
Yeah.
I remember going to Grand Rapids because I knew I was coming out as I knew it was happening. I was slowly kind of coming out, even though people already knew, but I was coming out for myself and, to feel comfortable and actually letting people know, yes, it is true. And I'm still working it out. So shut the fuck up. But
Let me do this.
I mean, that's literally all I wanted back then. Like when
Yeah.
it's like I had to deal with so many people always calling me the names before I even knew and understood what was going on within me. Like, it just seemed like there were so many people who seemed to know who they were by the time we were 17, apparently. I was like, oh, okay. All right, cool. I mean,
Must be nice.
yeah, I mean, cool. I'm so glad because I don't even know what the I don't
Right.
you don't understand anything when you're raised in a religious household that is teaching you these fundamental beliefs that being gay is a sin. Being
Yeah.
gay is wrong. And that wasn't the only thing taught in our household, but that was one that always stuck out because I would watch TV and I'd see guys like we talked about Jared Leto. I would on My So-Called Life, I would see him and
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't just like think this guy is like a good looking guy as anyone else would think. I'm like, I think he is fine.
Right.
And
You're
I
like,
knew that. Like I knew
yeah.
that. Like but I was trying to be like, make sense of it. And I was trying to make sense of all of these feelings, everything going on, while people are sitting there telling me what I am, telling me who I am, telling me what I'm
That's
supposed
one
to
of
be, telling me, and
that's
it's like,
one of the worst things is being told who you are or what you are by people.
or who you're
And like,
supposed to be,
yeah,
you
or
know?
who you're supposed to be. And that drives me nuts.
Hmm.
Because dealing with that as far as like conforming to like societal norms, I never have done that. Like in one
Oh yeah,
day,
you haven't. No, you
no, I like that's never been a thing for me.
no.
And like in one day, I got my hair cut like super short. I love it. Like, and then I got my nails done like super long. And it's like such a polar opposite because that's like just who I am. I don't identify with like, and that's like the whole thing of what I was wanting to talk about and something that, you know, I've been struggling with and that I feel like I identify more with is being non-binary because I don't really subscribe to one thing or the other. And the other thing that I felt is I was as a nice manifestation and side effect of my CPTSD is that I was diagnosed with like a form of body dysmorphia where like I don't see the same thing in the mirror that other people see, whether it be weight or like me or whatever. And I think that identifying and like realizing that I identify more as being non-binary takes a lot of that pressure off of me because I don't
I
have to conform
yeah.
to something in particular. I can wear a full face of makeup and eyeshadow one day, or I can wear nothing
Yeah.
the next day.
I have to tell you that I'm glad that this is who you are as your true self. I'm glad because I have to say that since I've known you, I have never been able to subscribe you to any gender really. I guess I've never really, I mean, because of the fact that like you presented a lot more as female, like there was that clear thing,
Mhm.
in a lot of ways. But I guess I was like, you were just always Ash, like.
Yeah, yeah. I actually was gonna put on my Facebook profile, funny enough, and on my TikTok for like pronouns. I was gonna put like they, them slash elf alien. Because
Right?
like
Like,
literally like I don't like that's just like me. Like I don't literally like I just don't like I'm just me. And then something that I wanted to like touch on, which was just it was a really, really awesome conversation, but and really, really touching. But like when I brought this up to Nick, okay, like one thing about Nick is he is so not judgmental. If he doesn't understand something, he just wants to understand it.
right?
And that's like something that I love about him
Mhm.
is that if he doesn't understand something, he wants to understand it rather than just being judgmental. So when I brought this up to him, he didn't really like understand it. Like he knew what gender fluid was
Sure.
and just he automatically put that to me. Like he automatically associated me with that.
A lot of people will.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
No, it's
Like I
not.
was like,
It's
yeah,
just,
that makes sense. You
yeah,
know, I get that.
it's just, it's not exactly the same, but
It's not,
it's
but
a
I
good way
get.
to really to get people to kind of understand. All right, you're getting there.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of like a roadmap of like it's a starting point.
Yeah.
So when I was talking to him about it and he was trying to understand it, he at one point said, "Look," and like I couldn't believe he said this. I don't know what human being like says this in the whole world. But he's like, "Look," he's like, "I here's the thing." He's like, "If you were transgender, I don't I don't know." He's like, "I wouldn't break up with you. I wouldn't like kick you out. We wouldn't be done. I guess like this is exactly what he said. He's like, I guess I would just learn like how not to have sex because I'm not attracted to guys, but you're my person. I'm in love with who you are. He's like, and I can't imagine my life without you. You're
Yeah.
my bet. You like he literally was like, I could not ever imagine my life without you every day on a day-to-day basis. So
It's
I would
kind
just
of
have to learn to adapt. And I appreciated that so much because I've never had that kind of security in a
Yeah.
relationship
I mean,
ever.
because I don't think, and I don't want to, like, there's no way, because, like, the sex part of it all. I mean, I get it. I understand where, like, in a heteronormative world that
Yeah.
he's seeing that. But I think at some point, no matter what you would to identify as, which obviously you're not transgender, but
And I told him that. I was like,
but in
no
a
worries, I like my boobs.
but in a hypothetical world, if
Yes.
that was the case, it's amazing the types of things that people can do for love.
Yeah.
It's
And
gender. I mean, love really does go beyond
transcendent.
gender.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does. And I think that the fact that he would even say something like that though was like amazing to me because like I said, I've never been in a relationship or anything like that. I've never been that secure in a relationship and like known that type of security. And I told him straight out, I was like, look, I am not like my exact words were like, I like my tits and my hoo-ha, so no worries on that one. And I'm like, that's not what this is. It's more for me is like the big thing is just it's why I said the thing about like they, them, elf, alien. Like I don't like societal standards. I think that gender for me personally is kind of like age and religion. It's something that's used to control and like influence masses to stay in their lane, stay in their label. You do this, like you're a woman, you have this role, you're a man, you have this role. And you would think in 2021 that wasn't a thing anymore, but it still is.
yeah.
It
Um,
absolutely still is.
yeah. It's. I've decided that my if people ask me my pronouns or what I identify as, are you a boy or a girl? And I'm like, I'm just the pink Power Ranger.
I
I'm
love
just
that.
I'm just the pink Power Ranger. That's
Well,
why
and that's why I
why
said
I
the
wore
elf
my.
alien thing because I literally at one point was like, I think I'm just gonna identify as an alien because I'm
Well,
like,
because who says I have to be a girl to be the pink Power Ranger, and who says I have to be a boy to be a Power
exactly.
Ranger? Whatever. When I was a kid, it goes back to a story of my elementary school days in Reamer, playing with kids. Like at the little league games, like some of us kids that didn't play, we would play ball. We would go play on the playground, and I
Mhm.
remember for some reason we'd always play something where I'd always want to be the princess. And for some reason, I didn't think that that should be a problem.
It
And
shouldn't be.
it shouldn't, no, it shouldn't. But I don't know why I was so honest with the kids that I wanted, like, if we were playing Ninja Turtles, I wanted to be April O'Neil.
Right? I want to be
I,
that reporter, bitch.
I know,
Like,
I want to be the one that's going to be walking around with the fancy heels and flipping her hair back.
well, and the other thing funny about like as far as like gender and like the way that we perceive things is if you go back way the fuck back, heels were not actually invented for females.
no, I know.
Heels were actually invented for males
Yeah.
in like high courts and like royalty.
Yeah.
Men were the ones wearing fucking heels, not women. And they were also wearing skirts and dresses. Like that was a thing.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
was.
kind of funny
But
that we twisted everything into shaming people for wearing one thing or the other just based on how we're raised.
Ash, one thing I've really kind of learned throughout my short yet long time on this earth, is that society just adapts where it needs to, and hate drives the way.
Oh, that's so true. Like that's so true.
It,
Like,
it's really, I mean, we can always call out racism. We can
mhm.
call out homophobia. We can call out any kind of bigotry, really, anything. But I mean, if it's let's just call it what it is. It's straight up hate.
Yeah, it is. And I think that that's like one thing that drives me nuts is like when people hate and it has it doesn't affect them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, why do you hate someone based
Well,
on something that literally does not fucking affect your life?
it's that's very good. I mean, that's such a great way to open up such a great conversation to so many people. It was like, what has caused hate to be the norm without us even actually realizing it?
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Like, and like, it's like the predisposition towards hate too. Like, the one thing that drives me crazy, and like, you're a great example of the opposite of that, is, and it's especially used around here, and it literally drives me nuts, is when people try to use, and I get to a degree, I can be very accepting and understanding of things, but when people try to use like their upbringing as an excuse to be hateful or ignorant,
Yeah.
and they use like the religion thing and everything like that. You're a perfect example that it doesn't really flip and matter
Yeah.
if you come from that environment. It doesn't mean you have to be ignorant. It doesn't mean that you have to be not accepting. It doesn't mean that you have to look at other people and be like this or this. And here's the thing. It's that learn better, do better.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I've
that whole thing.
I've just been lucky. I was lucky to be a queer person that grew up in that. That's where I say is because, and for in some ways, there's still trauma I'm working through from that, but for the most part, I think that helped me become the person that I am trying to be right now. Does that make sense? That I became
No,
the
it
person I'm
does.
trying to be. But yeah, I mean, that is essentially because of the fact that um people are teaching that Jesus was this person of love and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, he sounds amazing. I want to learn more
Right?
about him. I did. I'm like, he sounds great. But then all of
Right?
a sudden, as you get older, you start hearing more things like, oh, but he hates this. Oh, but he hates that. And I was like, but I think I'm one of that.
Yeah, well,
So,
one the big thing with me, like, I wrote a paper in college one time, and my teacher actually was like, I have never read a more interesting paper. And it was for English, and we had to do like some, I think it was like compare and contrast, or I don't remember what the subject was, but my paper was priest or prescription was the name of it. And it was based on, literally, I would take side by side accounts of when they did like exorcisms versus, and the symptoms that they listed in these exorcisms way back in like the 1800s, 1700s, like way back. And then today with mental health and like schizophrenia and DID and things like that. And I compared them in the manner of like, which one, and I'm not an atheist by any means. I believe in a higher power. I just don't prescribe to any like organized religion.
mm,
So I've always like kind of taken an issue with the whole thing of like with the Bible, like, man wrote the Bible. Like it's man-made. Like
yeah.
let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
And they kind of shoot it's kind of shooting themselves in the foot from the get, because they say in the Bible that man is flawed right off the bat. So
Mm-hmm.
man is flawed, man is born in sin, man is not, man will never be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man wrote the Bible. And you're supposed to accept the Bible as verbatim and the word of God. But if man wrote it and man is flawed, regardless of whether God was talking to them or not, the interpretation based on what you're saying about man is not going to be
See, now
100%.
Now, what you said right there is just full of logic, right? Everything you're saying
Right?
was full of logic. But for some reason, you go explain that to one of the most devout Christians,
Oh, I know.
somehow it will not compute in that mind. And
No.
I feel so bad for these people that
Oh
are
my God.
like so like locked in that, because I respect that they want to believe in something. I respect that they want to believe in a savior. And I think that that's great, because I know that feeling, because I was such a devout Christian that I wanted to believe that Jesus was this amazing deity that was going to, like, I was going to live in paradise once I died. And
I think we all need hope. I think that every human being needs hope.
absolutely,
And
that's
I
where.
think that that's what, unfortunately, a lot of organized religions cling on to with people, and they end up trading hope for fear.
That's
And
because
instead of hope, they're now clinging on to fear, and that's how they're living their life.
And that's because religions are run by man.
Again.
Therefore, flawed men,
Yep.
again, are the fact. Like, this is a whole different podcast in so many ways.
Right?
It really is. Like,
I'll be
we
more
could go
than
on.
happy to come on and talk about it.
we will do one like this, because this podcast is we consider it a conversation about everything. Nothing's off the table for this conversation, because it's all about perspective and different perspectives. I have had Trump supporters on this podcast before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I wanted to really have that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that I needed. I don't need to understand where a Trump supporter came from. I need to understand, like, why. Like,
how did you get there? Like, where in your life? Like,
especially people who I know are actually really good people, and I'm just very much like, I'm having a hard time understanding this.
Well, here's one for you. My cousin, I don't talk to my extended family anymore, but I have a cousin, and on my dad's side, and he is gay, and he's married, and they have two adopted, I think, children. Full-on Trump supporter. And I'm like, it's because of his dad, my Uncle Randy, and his mom, June. And it's literally he's so brainwashed to believe a certain thing because of his family that he'll vote against his own best interests. And I literally remember being like, what is wrong with you right now? Like, you're literally voting against your own best interest, your child's interest, your everything that you are, who you are as a person. You're voting for someone who doesn't respect and doesn't give a shit about you or your rights or anything like that.
It's so funny that you say that. I mean, because I ran into a few other Trump supporting gay people, and I'm just like, I understand. I guess there's this part of me that understands Republican gay people. I don't understand it, but like, I guess I can understand it more than
or conservative.
Yeah,
but not Trump.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, two of my friends that I actually just visited them this last weekend. They're not Trump supporters by any means, but they're a little bit more on that conservative side. Like, it's very clear. There's a difference between me being like, so I come off as extremely liberal, but I'm actually not as liberal as people might think.
I am, and I'm
fine I know,
with it.
And I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed if somebody thinks I'm so far left. The thing is, I'm actually not. Like, I am to a certain degree. I mean, I identify more to the central left than anything. But there's a lot of things that I think conservatively I could get on board with. But unfortunately,
the party just got derailed completely.
Yeah, and this is a whole nother podcast too. We could go on, and we do go on. But anyway, let's get back to I kind of want to, like, let's talk a little bit more about you, because I know that back when we were teenagers and into our early adulthood, you identified as bisexual for the most part. But I know that you've also, just like me, been exploring a lot more of who you are, not just sexuality wise, but like as who you are as a person, who you identify as a human. I mean, one of my favorite things is talking about that with people, even though I think people get really annoyed because I'm just like, I think I'm always up in people's face about gender. Like, I'm just such a big deal, because it is a big deal to me.
It is a big
deal. And
it's
I
part of who you, it's part of who, like, we are. You know,
and I don't fucking care. And I don't fucking care if people don't want to hear it, because like they can go away, walk away. But I don't care. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm going to listen to you when you talk about something that is about you, that you are expressing, that is very important to you. I want to hear that about you.
Yep.
I really do. But
Exactly.
I want you to hear me. I want you to understand that this is something that is important for me to share with you,
Yeah.
because it's not something that I present well, but it's something I really like to talk about, because it's such a big deal to people about gender roles, especially as a queer person, like in gay men, like all the time, like who's the man and who's the woman. And
Yep.
it's like, that's because we're so ingrained that those roles have to be played. If you're going to be in a relationship, people have gotten to this point, well, I guess if two guys are going to get married, whatever happens in their bedroom. I like those people better than most, because most of
Yep.
the other people, because at least they're like, you know what, I just don't want to know what you do, because I can respect that. I don't want to know what you do behind closed doors. So,
Right.
but I'm like, as long as you're not going to stop me from having my rights, we good.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
I like those people. They're Switzerland. You know, they don't
Yep.
need to know anything more than the fact that, well, it's kind of a dick move to say that you can't do it, and like, cool. You know what?
That's
I
literally my in-laws. I mean, I call them my in-laws. We're not married yet, but like
yeah,
Nick's
yeah.
parents. That's literally them. Because obviously you know Nick's cousin, Brian.
Brian, yes, we dated
So
many
you
years
know
ago.
him.
Hmm.
And his parents adore him
Yeah,
and accept him. And there's other people in his family that are gay and stuff. They know I'm bi, and they don't believe in restricting rights or anything like that. And it's not that they want to get into it about all the details, but they have a very strong stance on not taking away human rights from people because of who they love.
yeah,
And that's something that I admire so much about them, because his whole family is from a very small town. Like he grew up in a really small town. So to be as open-minded as he is something like that is mind-blowing to me. Because
yeah.
I've known people that have grown up in larger areas and don't have as much of an open mind as he
Hmm.
does.
Um, Speaking of places where we grew up, like I, I have to say that I really do miss living in Duluth, for the fact that I always felt like I was just around people, and I just got to be myself. I don't think I didn't have to hide myself very as
Yeah,
much.
it's not as bad in this area. I mean, granted, like I live in Superior, but it's just over the bridge,
But it's still
whatever.
not that bad over there either. I mean,
No, it's a
I mean
lot
that's
better.
where the gay bars are. I mean, for crying
Yeah,
out
right,
loud.
exactly. It's a lot better, I will say, than when I moved here at 18. Because like
Mhm.
you remember I split out of Rapids, like
Oh yeah,
I hit
I
18 and I
remember.
was like, bye Felicia, like I'm gone. Like I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I came up to, Duluth and moved up here, and it was the climate was a little different at that point. And it has evolved and it's gotten a lot better, I will say. And I don't have to deal with as much, but you still,
Yeah. There's
you
still
still
there's still
get,
a few bad ones out there in
yeah,
there, but not as bad.
I think that for me, I'm always gonna have this this issue with the Midwest, where I came from such a melting pot in California of all these different cultures, races, everything. And to move here, then it kind of just cut it off of
Yeah. Well,
like I
especially because you spent all the way up into your like late teens in California, and then you came to Grand Rapids by the time you're starting to develop into a young adult, and so it's
yeah, it
like
was like
shell shock, like, wait a minute.
I always say that it was an anti-culture shock for me, because I literally was like, like you remember me. I like people called me like a Smurf because I had like the short blue hair.
You
Like,
sure, blue hair, yeah.
yep. And like that was the thing. And everyone like labeled me as that. And I'm just like, okay,
They also
whatever.
you
I
had
don't
so
give a
many
shit.
you had so many labels. I mean, you were called lesbian slurs all the
Yep.
time. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Um,
No.
you were
They
called
called
a
me like I remember walking through the halls and being called a dyke, and I was
yep,
just like, fine,
and
whatever.
you were always called a witch, of course.
Yep. They called me Nancy from The Craft.
I was just gonna say, I remember you and my cousin were very well known to be those types. You were very much the goth punk,
Yep.
the collars with the little spikes on
Spikes.
it.
You know?
I mean, and handmade like homemade unprofessional amateur tattoos that
Yep.
you just,
I still have the one on my.
yeah. I mean, that was the norm of like we were broken youth. I'm surprised I did not express myself more like you guys did because I felt the way you guys did. But I guess I was with all the conservative upbringing. I was in so many different barriers of
Well,
anxiety.
and I knew that, like, do you mind if I talk about, like, I don't think you will, like, when I first met you?
Yeah, go for
Like,
it.
so when I first met you was at Snowball.
Oh my God.
Remember the dance?
When
And
I had a girlfriend.
you were with Nikki.
Yes, and we were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, and I remember when I was there, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like, things off. And
I mean,
obviously, like, even then, I wasn't gonna tell you who you were.
I was out bisexual at that point. Like,
And see, and I didn't know that. I
yeah,
wasn't
because you'd
sure.
only met me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I literally, that's when you and I met each other,
Yep.
was that. And so I was 16, you were 17.
I was
And
16. I was 17.
or maybe no, you were, if you were at Rapids, you were
I was
18.
18.
So I was about to turn 17, I think.
Yeah.
And so like I just like knew, like I could just, I'm like, I don't even like, I just, the vibes I was getting from you, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
but I, again, I wasn't gonna tell you who you were. And
Mhm.
I've always stood by that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna tell someone
But you
who
have to
they are.
remember I was giving those vibes to so many people, even people who were haters. And so those haters were
That's
calling me
actually
all the
fun sometimes. Like giving vibes to haters. Like,
well,
I
but
don't give a shit.
it's like there's so many things that I've never really thought that I would get to this age and look back and be like, I wish I could go talk to myself 20 years ago. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
I just I
I
really
get
do
that.
because 20 years ago this year, well, obviously this summer was the turning point of me coming out gay. This is where I was really starting to come out gay and bisexual and things like that. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is 20 years ago. I have been out for 20 years this month.
I would have been out for 20 years last October.
Okay. Um, I yeah, because and I only came out to so many people like at the time, but it was out. It was out
Yep.
there. And I was more comfortable if people asked me. I didn't go around like being like, oh, guess what? It was like if people asked me, I wasn't lying about it anymore.
Well, and the other thing that I think you can totally relate to, because I was the same way when I came out as bi. But one thing about Grand Rapids High School, people talk.
Oh,
So
but
that's
that's every high school.
yeah.
So
Well, that's just high school in general. But shit got around fast.
mhm.
And because I remember people saying things to me and I didn't even know who the hell they were. Like, I was like, who are you? I don't even know what's going on right now. Like, why are you all up in my grill? Why are you in my face? Like, why are you even talking to me? I don't know you. I don't know your friends.
Yeah,
Why are you, like, what's going on? And it was because they heard from someone, because it's the telephone game, basically, essentially,
mhm.
or 6 degrees of separation. It goes to that. And I know that, like, I remember, like, when you came out, surprisingly, I was actually one of the people that knew firsthand from you.
Oh yeah, I think I told you, yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't know how we started becoming friends
It
more.
was mostly the thing of, like, you were still close with Nikki, even
Yeah,
though, like, that was not a thing.
yeah, we
You
just
guys
kind of fizzled
remained,
into friends. Yeah,
yeah, you guys remained close. She was a close friend of mine.
yeah,
And
that's
so
it.
then I started hanging out with her. I started hanging out with you.
We
You
also
knew,
had
like,
we had other mutual friends. Like you were so close.
Kruger, like,
You were
all,
so close.
yeah.
You were so close with Kruger. Like you two were
Yes,
almost best friends.
I know.
Um,
We actually reconnected on social media and actually are like friends on Facebook again, which I'm super happy about.
Yeah.
because there was like a big disconnect a long time ago. And
Hmm.
so I'm super happy that like he's there and like back in my life and that we can let like things in the
Yeah.
past just be things in the past. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how you and I started hanging out. And I remember like when you came out to me, like obviously to me it was not a surprise. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, that makes sense. But again, the way that I viewed it when I met you at Snowball and everything was I felt I didn't know anything about your history. I didn't know anything about your upbringing or anything like that. But I
Hmm.
really did feel like I was like, okay, I'm getting vibes that he came from a situation where he's not comfortable right now, totally being who he is. And I'm not going to be the one to be like, because no one should be, to be like, you're this, or why are you here with a girl, or anything like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I think you can even remember, even though it was, that long ago, that I just was like chill with you and like
Oh yeah.
because we even went back to Nikki's house to watch a movie.
Did
Remember?
we?
Yeah, it was me and Max, my
I
boyfriend
remember
Max at the
Max.
time,
Yeah.
and then you and Nikki, and we all went back to Nikki's house and we actually watched a movie. What the hell movie it was? I cannot for the life of me remember. I kind of want to ask Nikki now, like what movie if she can remember what it was.
I can't
But
remember.
yeah, we went back, and so then that was the other way that I spent more time with you,
Hmm.
is that we all
Yeah.
like as a group watched it.
I do remember a specific night. It was summer. Well, it was probably end of summer. I was driving, and you and Savannah were still friends at that time,
Mhm.
and you guys were walking up Pekegama Avenue Hill, and I was driving, and I turned around and picked you guys up, and then
I
you
was
guys,
always walking everywhere back
yeah,
in the day.
and then you guys came and hung out with me for a little while, and I was watching Queer as Folk.
Yep, I remember
And
that.
and I think I made you guys watch like a whole bunch of episodes
Yep.
with me.
I didn't mind it though. You got me into that show.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
a good.
super liked it. I remember like watching it. Like remember when we lived in the one house with the crazy ass landlord, dear God, that somehow
Oh,
we froze her pipes.
that was Tina.
Yeah,
Yeah, Tina. She was a good friend of mine. Yeah,
yeah, and I mean, she was a friend of mine too, but
yeah, but
that
it went.
the way that shit went down was nuts.
Mhm.
But when we were living in that house, remember my room was right off of yours. It
Yeah,
was that little
you
like
yes.
angular room, and like I loved it because I remember I plastered it with posters and stickers and everything, and
Yep.
I had like the light. And I used to go in there, and I remember because I was just a little freaking stoner at the time, and I used to go in there and be like, "I'm just gonna smoke weed and clean my room," and like
And then
just random stuff
and
when
then
I get
you'd
home
come.
from work.
Yeah, and then you'd come over and sit and watch like episodes of Queer as
Yeah,
Folk
and
or
so I'd
or
come over there
Buffy.
because we had like two curtains
Yeah,
separating like my room, and then there was the downstairs, and then your room. And then I'd go over and we would watch that, and like I super got into that show because of
yeah.
you. And I
Well,
like I
it
didn't know anything about it.
yeah, it was the only way for it. I think the rooming situation, it was the only way you were comfortable living in the house because if you had to be anywhere, you like, I'd rather be off the room of the gay guy's room than all
Yeah,
these
and I
dirty.
mean, honestly, because like of the stuff that I'd been through, even at that point in my life, I was like, I am not like, even though they were friends of mine at the time, like everyone that lived there, I still was like, I had trepidation and was just like, I feel more comfortable being up here with Ace, because
Oh my
that's what
God,
everyone,
A's. That's
yeah, that's what everyone called you at the time.
yes.
That was,
Oh
yep,
my
that was
God.
your nickname. And
I
I was like,
miss being called that. Do you know I miss that so much?
I've referred to you as that multiple times, and I'm like, shit, I don't know if
Wow. No, I
I don't
still
know
will.
if
I'll answer
I
to
don't
it.
know if you prefer that. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, I will answer to it. There are still a few people who literally still call me, but it's so few and far between that when they do say it to me, I'm like,
Yep.
wow, you are someone from the olden timey days.
Yeah, like that's
Like,
old school. So I remember I was just like, yeah, I would prefer to just be up there. Like it's it's
yeah.
better on my anxiety, like being and I remember you even saying like one time, like I remember you were like, "Oh, I'll fuck a bitch up if he tries to come up here and mess with you." And I was like,
I
"Great, you
was
got my back."
I was all talk. Let's be honest, I was all talk.
I was like, "You'll say
I
something, and
mean,
then my ass will be out there
the,
actually punching
the
somebody."
Yeah, the person I am now would definitely like kick a bitch, but
Yeah.
the person I was back then, no.
Like I said, I feel like you would have set off the alarm and been saying shit, and then I would have went out there and like,
yeah, behind closed doors,
fucking
I'd
beat
have
their
been like,
ass. Yeah, you'd been like, come at me, blah blah blah, and I would have been like, all right, Ace, I got this.
yeah,
Like, and then I would have been
but
like kicking him
they
in the
would have.
nuts.
But if they would have gotten near me, I'd have been like, oh God, no.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it would have been like one of those "this is Sparta" moments, like just fucking kicking him down the stairs.
Yeah.
Just go, like.
I watched an awful lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so who knows? I could have
Oh,
gotten
I remember
crazy.
that too.
Yeah.
That was like that. It was either like that or what was it? There was another one. Oh, Smallville.
Oh my God.
Smallville was another one.
Yep.
I didn't super get into that until like I watched some with you, and then when I found out that like it crossed over with the guys from Supernatural, then I was like,
It
what's
didn't.
going on here?
Well, it didn't cross over. Jensen
Well,
Ackles was
they
in the
didn't
fourth
cross over,
season.
but the actors
Yeah.
were,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Jensen Ackles was in the fourth season, and then
and
after
he
the
was
fourth
like a
season,
total dick.
he became a bad guy in that. Yeah.
Yeah, his character was a douche. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
He was the
He's always,
football coach that was also dating Clark's high school girlfriend.
right, because that's
And,
not weird.
yeah, and I recognized him at that time. He hadn't. I mean, he didn't become Dean Winchester yet, but
Yeah.
he was. And the last I had seen him on anything, it was a soap opera I watched when I was like
Oh my
16 years
God,
old.
right?
Yeah, it was. I want to say All My Children.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. I believe it.
in the summer I only went to watch All My Children because Jensen Ackles was on the show and he was a poster in my Tiger Beat. So yeah.
Right? My mom watched soap operas. And so like one time she turned it on and I didn't even know who he was or whatever, but I was like, he's hot. And I'm like, ooh, I kind of like this. I don't mind watching this now, Mom. It's fine. Like I can just stare at him and I'll be okay.
Well, I'm a Sam girl, so I mean
Oh,
I love Dean, but there's just something about Sam that just like I want him. I want to be
he's
his.
so
I want to be his
cute.
little. I just want to be his little spoon.
He's so cute in the way that he's like, with like the way that like he's so emotional.
Yeah, I think that's why I connect. I'm like, oh my God,
Right? Like you're so emotional.
you
But at the same time,
you just
like
lost.
you're
You've lost so much. Come here.
right? Like you're so awesome.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those people that cuddle after sex.
But yeah, so so we've had quite an experience here on this episode of the podcast, and I really want to thank you, Ash, for joining me. It's been kind of a crossover of my blasts from the past.
Right.
Queer life. I mean, because you were literally one of the only other people I remember back in those days that really helped, that I understood what it was like to be outside watching everyone else have a life and watching everyone else, because we weren't really part of the world because we weren't normal.
No. Yeah. I mean, I lived on my own since I was 16 years old. I had a job at 16. Like I was going to school and working at the same time. And it wasn't the same. Like I watched other people going through the motions of all these things, and I was the one who had to do all these different things. And same with you, as far as like your upbringing and everything, you had a completely different perspective. So it's kind of like you just watch everyone else and you're just kind of like, you feel this removal. It's kind of like in that if you watch the video, it's a music video, Numb by Linkin Park, where the girl is standing there and you see everyone going around her and it's just kind of a blur, but she's standing there. That's kind of, I think, how you and I kind of felt in high school, where everyone else was kind of doing their thing and they were part of something. And we were just kind of like, yeah, okay. Like, and I'm not saying we were the only ones, but we knew each other.
Have you heard of the musical Dear Evan Hansen?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I post about it a lot. It's a mental health musical, actually. I want you to
check that out.
Yeah, check out the song Waving Through a Window.
Definitely. Like, definitely.
And then let me know if it resonates with you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably will.
Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation, such some
Yep,
memories touching here, and
right.
just talking about who we were and seeing who we are, and that's the stories we're sharing. And I'm so happy that you were here to share this story.
No, this is awesome, and I would be more than happy to like come
Come
on
back
here
again.
whenever. Yep,
For sure.
definitely.
When I have the regular cast, we have a lot more fun when we have like because I have actually one of my actual co-hosts, Sarah Citrine. She goes by here, but back in school days she was known as Sarah Meyer.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
She
totally
is
actually know her.
yeah, she's a regular guest member on this podcast. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
awesome. I
Um
haven't talked to her in forever.
and then my friend Lisa Forstall, who lives in Duluth, and then my best
Mhm.
friend Mikey, who is a douchebag straight guy. He's not a douchebag. He's a straight guy. But he fits the role. He fills that role of being the masculine man in the conversation.
Is he a bro?
He is kind of a bro, but he's a theater bro. So
Oh, okay. Well, I can go there. Like
yeah. Mm.
that's I can do that.
But yeah, so it'd be nice to have you back on again. But
Definitely.
until then, those that are watching or listening, don't forget to subscribe and like, especially here on the YouTube channel, because it really helps us out. The more you subscribe and like, the more we get up into that algorithm and more people are getting the episodes and can watch. Share it, make sure people see. I want to see if we can get more followers. We still got merch too. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty cool to me. Yeah, that's how I sell it. All right. But until then, happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.